as we entered the room, I actually sat down. I forgot what he told me. I sat down, and then all of a sudden I remembered, oh yeah, he told me not to sit down. And so I stood up very very quick, and then I acted like I was just sitting down to just kind of put my bag there and then my coat because it was winter time during my interview. Hey everyone! Today I want to share with you my experience during my American citizenship interview. But first, I want to give you a little context as to how I got here in the States. So in 2019, I arrived here in the States, specifically in Ohio, through a fiancé visa. So my husband and I, we got engaged. I'm from the Philippines, and my husband is of course from the States, and so we got married here in Ohio. And then I already have my 10-year green card, and it's actually my 5th year last year here in the States. And so I thought of applying for my American citizenship already because US passport is more powerful than the Philippine passport, and so that we can travel anywhere we want without me having to worry for a visa wherever we go. So I have my laptop actually here with me. So if you see me looking at this side, that means I have my cheat notes. I have my notes here, my timeline as to, from when I started submitting my application and to my interview. So I applied for my citizenship because I wanted, the blue passport. But of course, I also wanted to become, a citizen here in the States because I see myself living here permanently. We don't know what's going to happen when I get old, but for now my husband and I plan to live here permanently in the States. And also I want to support the government as well by becoming American citizen, so I can also vote and have other benefits of being an American citizen. And also, with what's going on with the politics right now, so I thought of applying for my citizenship already. So I'm sort of settled here already. So I submitted my application online on there November 27. I went online. This was actually not planned at all. There was just one night I was like, oh, maybe I should already apply for my citizenship. And so there was just one random night. I was on our couch, I was on the laptop, and I thought of applying for my citizenship. And so I did that spontaneously. So I went online, I went to uscis.gov. So that's where I submitted my application. But you can also submit your application via mail, but I'm online kind of girl. I want it done online because it's just easy, fast, and I don't have to print out documents that I need to send to them. So I fill out an online form which is called, I think, N400. So it's basically just questions about you, and then I submitted a lot of documents to prove that I'm legitimate, that I'm married legitimately to my husband, and to prove that I have been staying here in the States for 5 years, and to prove that, I also already have some sort of properties here in the States. So I submitted a lot of documents online. Thank God that I did it online because I submitted a lot. Like, I think 5 years or 4 years worth of tax, also our house documents, medical insurance, bank statements, whatever, everything that I have to prove my eligibility, I submitted to them. That's why if you have a lot of documents that you're sending to them, I feel like it's better if you do it online, so you don't have to print a bunch of papers and mail it to them. So I did that, and then I remember I think I paid $710 during that time. So I think if you do it online, it's about 710, and then if you're gonna mail it, or if you're gonna do it differently, I think it's about $710. Now there is actually, you can actually waive the fee if you're part of the lower income group. So I don't know all about that, but I can probably link the site where you can find information about that if you don't want to pay for about $700 to do your citizenship. So just check out the link in the description below. So I did all that in just maybe 2 or 3 hours, and then I sent my application online. So again, that was on November 27, and then after a week, I actually received a notice that they have received my application and that I don't need to do the biometric. So if you don't know what a biometric is, you actually have to go to a USCIS office. They need to take a picture of you. They need to get your thumbprints and all that to make sure that you don't have any criminal background, or anything similar to that. So I received an email or a letter via mail that they have received my application and that I don't need to do an appointment for biometrics, which is good because it I feel like it had cut down the process. And so yeah, after a week I received that, and then December 19, so from November 27, which was the day I sent my application, December 19, I received another letter saying that they have scheduled me for an interview already, which was kind of exciting during that time. I didn't realize that it's that quick, so I think it was only about less than 3 weeks and I received the interview letter already. So I received the letter on December 19, and then the interview was for February 3rd. So I had about 2 months, or a little bit less than 2 months to prepare for the interview. So once I received the letter for my interview and I know when the interview is going to be, I actually started reviewing for the exam, or for the interview. So you can actually just download the PDF from the USCIS website. So they have the 100 questions there. It is called Civics Questions and Answers. So I can also link that in the description below. So there are about 100 questions there that you need to memorize by heart, so that you also know the history of the states. But for me, my friend actually recommended that I get the flashcard on Amazon, and that's actually what I bought. So I bought the US citizenship flashcards on Amazon. This is about $6 or $7. I'm not entirely sure, but it's very cheap. So I feel like it helped me a lot to remember all of those 100 questions and answers. So I'm gonna show you how it looked like. So this is how it looks like. So I'm not gonna show you everything. So this is the flashcard. So the blue one is actually the question over here, and then you have to flip it like this, and then the red one is the answer. So it's very helpful actually whenever my husband and I go somewhere, when we went to the grocery store or to the church or to the mall. It takes about 30 minutes to go there, to drive, and I was just sitting on the passenger seat. So I actually have this with me. I was reviewing it while we're driving. So it wasn't really that hard to memorize all of these actually. So I was hesitant a little bit to apply for my citizenship because I thought it was gonna be hard to memorize all of these questions, but it ended up easy actually. So if you're like me, who was kind of hesitant to do the US citizenship interview because you're afraid that you're gonna fail don't be afraid. So during the time I was preparing for my interview, I was really sort of scared, because I didn't want to fail. But I have spoken to some of my friends who have already applied for the citizenship, and they got accepted, and they told me it's easy, Christy, you can do it. And even though they told me that it's easy, I can do it, I still did not believe it 100% because I fear the unknown. I still during that time didn't know what's going to happen. So now I'm here to tell you, just like what my friends told me, to not fear. It's so easy. So believe me when I say that. But of course, that doesn't mean you're just gonna be complacent. You still have to review and memorize these 100 questions. So, all right. So my interview was on February 3rd, and I researched what I need to wear and all that. It says that I have to wear business casual or casual attire. So I actually bought some pants online. I think you're not really, it's recommended that you don't wear jeans. So I bought some slacks, pants on Amazon, and then I wore something businessy actually. So so I really dressed up for my interview because I had to look like I'm an honest person, and I need to look credible. So my interview was at 11:15 a.m. So we drove from our town to Cleveland, Ohio, and we got there around 10:30. So I had time to still, eat a little bit before the interview because it felt during that time that it's gonna take a while. For them to call me for my interview. So my interview was at 11:15, and it says in the letter that I received that I shouldn't be there. I shouldn't be earlier than 30 minutes. So I went to the building, to the room. I checked in. I think I got there 20 minutes before my interview, and there were a few people there. Different nationalities, Europeans, and even people from different parts of Southeast Asia. So I was looking at them and what they were wearing, and I feel like I dressed up too much, but it was okay. I feel like I'd rather be dressed up than wear something that's not allowed during the interview. So I saw people, they were wearing sneakers and jeans, but I don't know. I was glad that I dressed up for the interview because I needed that confidence as well to make sure that I'm not wearing anything that is not allowed. So it's totally up to you if you want to wear jeans or sneakers, but I highly recommend that you show up nice for the interview. So I waited for about maybe 30 to 45 minutes. So all of the people that were there before me, they were called already, and I remember one of them was called by an officer that was really, really friendly, and I thought to myself, I was like, God, please give me that interviewer because he seems so friendly. It would help, my nervousness. And so everybody was sort of, the people who were before me and who were after me were already called, and it was for a few minutes, it was only me left in the waiting room. So I was like, is there something wrong? Why they haven't called me yet? And I was actually about to go up to the check-in person just to make sure that she gave my paper to one of the officers, but I just waited patiently, and then lo and behold, an officer called me, and it was actually the officer that I saw that I kind of wanted to interview me. So he was very friendly. So he called me. He's like, Christy Yoder. So he opened the door, and then we walked through a hallway. And as we are walking through the hallway, he was giving me instructions already, which is kind of hard to understand a little bit because I feel like because he was behind me and I couldn't hear him very well, so I just picked up some keywords of what he said and just tried to understand the best I can, And so he was talking to me while we're walking towards the room, and the room where we had the interview, it was actually the last room. So we walked quite quite a bit, and he was telling me that the room is on the right side, and the last room on the right side. And he was telling me that, when I enter the room, I shouldn't sit down first because he's gonna have to swear me in. He's gonna make sure that I understand everything, and that I will be giving honest answers to his questions. So I understood all that. But as we entered the room, I actually sat down. I forgot what he told me. I sat down, and then all of a sudden I remembered, oh yeah, he told me not to sit down. And so I stood up very, very quick, and then I acted like I was just sitting down to just kind of put my bag there, and then my coat, because it was winter time during my interview. Actually, it's still winter time right now as of this recording. So I stood up really quick, and then we actually made a little chit chat. He's like, oh, do you have a driver's license? And I said, oh, actually, I don't have a driver's license yet. So he just looked at my passport to just make sure that all my information is correct, and to make sure that I'm really Christy Yoder, that I'm the person who is supposed to be interviewed by him. So I told him, oh, I don't have a driver's license yet. I don't drive yet. I told him, and I said, and then I said, and then he's like, oh, you don't? So how do you get around? I said, well, my husband drives me around, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, I actually have a scooter that I use to roam around the city. And then he showed me that it's actually in his office. So he was kind of nice. So I'm glad that he was my interviewer. But you have to keep in mind that as soon as he calls you, as soon as an officer calls you, the officer is already measuring or assessing your English speaking skills and your comprehension. So you have to take note of that. So yeah, so he sworn me in. He said, I forget the exact words he said, but he's like, do you promise to say the truth and nothing but the truth, something like that. And then he's like, raise your right hand, and then you can either say okay, you can either say yes or I do, or blah blah blah. And then once he's done talking, I just said I do, and then I sat down. And then what he had me do first is the reading test. So there are actually 3 parts of the test. So the first one is the reading test, the writing test, and then the civic or history test. So he had me do the reading test first. So in front of you on the table, there's this small iPad or tablet, and then he will turn that on using his computer. He controls it using his computer, and then he had me read the word. And as far as I know, the word that I read, or the sentence that I read, is any citizen can vote. So it's basic English. If you know how to speak English, you don't have to worry about it. And then after that, he had me write a sentence. So there's also like an Apple pencil, or like a digital pencil that you can use to write down on the iPad or the tablet. I forget what exactly is the word, but it's also pretty easy. So I just wrote it down, and then he's like, okay, good. And then after that, he went ahead and asked me questions about the history of the US, in civic questions. And so he told me that he's going to ask me 10 questions, but if I get 6 correctly, then we are going to, then he's not gonna ask any more questions beyond 6. So I was like, okay, this is it, So he asked me questions. The first question he asked me was, who signs bills to become laws? And so, of course, I answered the president. And so my hands are actually like under the table. And so as he was asking me questions, I was already counting how many questions he asked me, so that I know whether I failed or not, and I know how many questions he's still gonna ask of me. And so so the first question is, who signs bills to become laws? So of course the answer is the president. The second question is, what is the highest court in the United States? Of course the answer is the Supreme Court. How many justices are on the Supreme Court? There are currently 9. And then the fourth question he asked, what are 2 ways that Americans can participate in their democracy? So I answered that as well. And then, who lived in America before the Europeans arrived? So that was the 5th question. And so I wasn't sure if I got all those 5 questions correctly, because he didn't tell me after asking each question whether I answered correctly or not. He just proceeded to one question to another. So after the fifth question, he said, okay, just one last question and you're good. And so the last question he asked me was, who was president during the Great Depression and World War II? So I got all the answers correctly. Praise the Lord. So yeah, from there it went smoothly, and then he told me that, okay, now I'm gonna test your English comprehension. I'm gonna be asking you questions. You're gonna answer me either yes or no, making sure that you understand the question. So the questions that he asked me are actually the questions that are in the N400 application form. So before you go to the interview, please also review that. But it's basically just a yes or no questions. And he also asked me, do you have did you file for your taxes, or did you miss any filing? I said no. I've been filing my taxes accordingly. And then he asked me about criminal records and all of that. But also, when you do your application online, automatically you will have an online account on USCIS website. So I think even if you don't do your application online, you can still create an account on uscis.gov. So it's helpful if you have an account there, because you can actually see the progress of your application, and it's really, really helpful. And yeah, I also want to mention before I forget that before I actually sat down, after he sworn me in, I sat down, and then he said, I'm so sorry that you waited long. Remember, I told you I waited kind of long. He said, I'm so sorry that you waited long, because you sent me a lot of documents, so I had to review them. But he said all my documents looks really good, and our interview shouldn't take long. And he said he didn't see any problems. So actually on the table, I saw like this thick of documents. So those documents are actually the ones that I sent online. So just imagine if I did my application via mail, that means I'm gonna be sending documents this thick. All right. Okay, so that's basically it. So after he asked me questions about my N400, he said, okay, I'm gonna give you this paper. So the paper actually has the result. He's like, this is proof that you passed your interview, and then you just have to wait for your oath taking. And then I asked him when the oath taking is going to be, because I will be traveling to the Philippines next month, which is March 19. So today, as of this recording, it's February 19, 2025, and my interview was on February 3rd. So I asked him when the oath taking is going to be scheduled. He said that it might be March 7. It's either March 7 or March 27. So in the USCIS office that I was interviewed at, they only do oath taking every first and third Friday of the month. So I'm still waiting for my oath taking schedule. So I asked him if I can reschedule it, just in case it's later than I expected. He said that I can reschedule it, but he said that it may take long for them to reschedule it, and as much as possible, they actually want newly passers of citizenship do the oath taking as fast as they can to make sure that the process goes smoothly. But rescheduling is an option since I will be traveling, but I'm still waiting. So I'm kind of waiting for 2 weeks now. Hopefully I receive something this week. I kept on checking my USCIS account, and there's no update yet. So hopefully I receive the letter soon, and that my oath taking is on March 7. Because if my oath taking is on March 7, that means that I'm gonna have to give up my green card, and then they will give me my naturalization certificate, which is a requirement for applying for a US passport. Obviously, if I don't have my green card with me and I don't have a US passport yet, that means that I won't be able to travel. But I actually figure out a way, if in any case my interview is on March 7, I can expedite my passport so that I can have it before we leave on March 19. So that's pretty much it. I hope this video is helpful to you. Please comment if you have any questions, I will help you to the best of my ability. So thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.